you would always want to be on the side of having good credit.
Do you think it pays to have good credit? I think there's 80% of Americans who have some sort of error that's on their credit reports. And this can be anything in relating to wrong addresses, it can be wrong payment history, it can be random accounts on their credit. So, you take 80% of people, by what, 300 million people in the US
Right.
or something
Yeah.
like that. There's enough clientele for everyone in the credit repair industry. And that's assuming 50% of them are just going to say, I'm not worrying about it, or I can try to do this myself. There's still millions and millions and millions of people who need credit repair specialists to help them with their credit and guide them with their credit profiles. But what I'm getting at, I think the hardest thing for most people who are getting into the credit repair industry is targeting almost everyone who need credit repair, which may sound backwards, but I think you need to find out exactly what your goal is with these clients. Do you want to market to people who's trying to start a business? Do you want to market to people who are trying to buy a home? So there's some people who need to fix their credit because they want to go buy a Hellcat next weekend and start missing payments again in 6 months. So, I almost try to market myself to a specific type of clientele. And I think that has helped my credit repair business, scale up over the last few years just because I focus and market to a certain type of people, which happens to be people that are trying to buy real estate. And it doesn't matter if it's a home or, some sort of first investment property or someone who's trying to start a small business and they're using credit to their advantage. Hence my slogan, it pays to have good credit. I'm all towards using credit for things that is either going to save you money or make you money. If you have a small fleet business, right? And let's just say you have a pest control business and you have to have a van for your services, or you own a detailing shop and you have a van. Well, some people may argue, hey, I don't have the cash to buy two more vehicles for my employees, because if we had two more vans, we can get to two more jobs, and we can, instead of knocking out 5 jobs per day, we can do 15. So
Right.
I'm like, look, if you got the credit and the leverage and you can get financing for two more work vehicles or fleet vehicles, go for it. Long term, your return on investment on that is going to be way more than what you finance on those two vehicles. So, vice versa, people that's trying to buy a home right now, they want to buy a $400,000 home with a 6% rate. Yeah, it's high. Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but look at it long term, 15, 20, 25, 30 years from now, you're on route to eliminate your biggest expense per month, which is, like I said
Right.
earlier, where you lay your head at every night. So,
Right.
my type of clientele is marketing towards people who are using credit to their advantage, or that it's going to make or save them money in the future. And I think that's very important for any credit repair organization that's out there, because yeah, you can argue that you're going to grow and you're going to get so many more clients if you market to everyone. But man, talk about the headaches you will have. I try to market to people who understands how this works. They understand buying a home isn't going to happen overnight. Buying a home, you're prepping yourself 6 months, 8 months, a year before you buy a home or before you get into the market. So that's usually who I try to market to, James. Since you've been in the business for a little while now, have you sat down and has that been something you thought about? Or do you even agree with me on that? Or, do you think it's a good idea to market to a specific group of people who need credit repair? Or do you think it's smart to just go after all sorts of clientele that's out there? I mean, there's really no right or wrong answer besides just two opinions here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's probably not a right or wrong answer. I would say, in the beginning, I was in the category of, anybody that I could get in front of. Yeah, great, I can help you. Sign here kind of thing. And then as that kind of progressed, I kind of transitioned a little bit to I had a have a close friend who's actually trying to start a business, and he was like, "Hey, James, he knew I was, doing this, and He was talking about his credit, and he's like, "Man, I need start a business, and I need a vehicle, and I need this." I was like, "Man, here's what you do." So I've transitioned from kind of helping anyone that needed help to, I guess, kind of choosing my clients a little more specifically. So what I try to focus on now, quite honestly, is kind of twofold. Is I like the folks that are trying to start a business but don't really
Hmm.
know how to go about securing business credit.
Yep.
I even talked to them a little bit about the Dun and Bradstreet stuff. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but
Hmm.
just different ways to build credit. How a lot of people don't know you can actually apply for business credit with your personal credit scores, and then once you get approved for business credit, like a business credit card, that's actually now a separate credit profile from your personal
There
credit
you go.
profile. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So I've kind of transitioned towards prospective business owners
Yep.
and also kind of a DIY crowd under the idea of like I'm kind of a
Hmm.
consultant and I'm giving them reference material, so to speak. Um,
Right.
it's a little more hands off, which is ideal for me, but I do like kind of being able to be a guide and a mentor to some of these folks as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of some of the clientele that we get, something else, just coming to the conclusion of this episode, and that's mainly for any of our clients who may be listening to this episode, from my audience or your audience, whoever's tuning in. There's something that I've been thinking about over the last few years, actually, and it reminds me of the car business when I was in car sales. Being in the car sales industry, working somewhere, there was always like a funny joke that's, very popular in the car sales industry is that people do not stay, people rotate. And what they mean by that is if you look at some of these sales managers or finance managers or sales consultants, it's like they're at one dealership this year and then next year they're somewhere else. And it's almost funny because I used to have customers come into the car dealership when I sold cars, many years ago. People would come in and see a salesperson and was like, "Wait, didn't I buy my last vehicle from you at this dealership?
Yeah.
At this other
Yeah.
dealership?" And then vice versa with some of the sales managers there. They're like, "Oh wow, I did the appraisal on that lady's car when I was at
Yeah.
Toyota. Now I'm at Chevy." And it's like, man, people do not stay in one spot. It's like they bounce around just in a big circle. And what I'm leading to, sadly, I feel the same way with some of our clients that we get. We get a lot of people. They're like, "Hey, I saw your services online. You look like an honest person. I want to sign up. I just, went through this other company, and yeah, they had a few things getting deleted, and I just felt like I just got tired of waiting, so I quit on them. Now I want to use you, or I've been through three different credit repair people, and now I'm using Sturgis Credit Repair." And people, again, this is my opinion, people may think I'm wrong for this or think I'm crazy for this. I almost turn people away when they start thinking like that because two things. One, I don't want to be labeled as somebody that did someone wrong or couldn't help them because at the end of the day, it is out of my control, all of our control, if something cannot be removed off of your credit report. Because if it's not inaccurate, it's not unverified, incomplete, having errors reporting to it or the response, whatever the case is, your chances of something being deleted is actually very slim. So people that's coming to me and they're like, I done been through three people this year. I'm like, look, what are you trying to do? Let's slow down a little bit. Why did you go through three companies this year? Were there scams? Were there real companies? And they're like, no, they're real businesses. I went through Lexington. I went through creditsaint.com. I went through a local guy here. He has a office there, and I did my research. I'm like, okay, he knows his stuff. And now you found Sturgis Credit Repair. So we're about to be the fourth company that you've used in the last 8 months. Like, what are you doing? So, I kind of had this conversation with her and I'm like, look, what got deleted off of your credit and what didn't get deleted? Okay, that got deleted. Did any of these other companies manage to get at least one of these accounts deleted on one bureau? And she's like, no. And I'm like, look, we offer a free month trial. We can at least see what we can find. Let's see if there's errors on there. I doubt it. If there was four or three other companies that looked at it and they're, real companies. But it sucked that being in the credit repair industry, we're faulted for something that we can't do. So look at it this way. If someone in our family had and I hate to say this, but someone in our family had a heart problem, right? And their health is bad and their diet is bad and things aren't working out for them. Well, if that person have a heart attack or they're choking, whatever, and they get rushed to the hospital and the doctor does everything he can possibly do, that the family is going to thank the doctor and just be like, hey, look, you tried your best. We knew this
Right.
time was coming. You did all you can do. We're going to pray for you for at least attempting to help our loved one.
Right.
Now, let's flip the switch a little bit. Credit repair. Someone did this to themselves. Someone purposely, have, well, not purposely, but somebody clearly have these things that's on their credit. They missed their payment. They let their car get repossessed. They did this and they come to a credit repair company, and our only luck on getting this stuff removed if it fits any of the reasons for it to be removed. And if so, it gets removed. If not, I mean, we can just try other options, or we may be out of options. There's nothing else we could do as far as credit repair. You know what that customer does? They chew us out, they cuss us out, they leave a bad review, they talk about it, and then they go right next door to the next credit repair service. So,
Right.
it's kind of like the credit repair industry is like a big circle of musical chairs here. They start here, then they go there, then they go here, then they're back here. And look, 2 years later, they may be back to you. I've had several clients over the last 3 years. Some just quit just due to money issues, but there are at least one or two that I know specifically. I told them that we've tried everything we can do. We've had a few things deleted, but these last two or three things here, we're stuck on them, man. I mean, it's nothing that I can do. I don't have any options with this. And they cancel, or at least I canceled them. But then 2 years later, I noticed they signed up on the website again. I'm like, look, we just went through this. I don't want to be labeled
Right.
as somebody that couldn't help you. We can try to do this again, but look, I don't know if we're going to have any luck with this. So, have you gotten to the point where you notice some of these customers are just going in a big circle and they're going through 15 different companies in a year? Do you think that's a smart thing, or do you kind of agree with me that that's a little extreme to a point?
No, I agree with you. I definitely think it's extreme. I've definitely, if I get a client that kind of gives me that information, I probably would politely decline to do business with them because they clearly don't understand the process. They clearly don't understand because I probably would scare them off. I would just tell them this is not a overnight thing. This is not a quick fix. If you're in it for the long haul, I'll be happy to help you. I
Yeah.
have one particular client who, like you, I offer monthly credit monitoring as well.
Hmm.
And I do that for this particular gentleman. And he's always calling me, telling me that he's got another product that, is more than like the service that I provide, but this or that. And I said, well, man, if it's better, I'm cool with that. Do whatever you got to do. I said, but what's the factual comparison? Like, what does that product do? Oh, well, I don't really know. And I was like, okay, man, well, you figure that out and then get back to me. And, so it's
Yeah.
like people don't really know what they're just they're sold something, they're enticed by something. People are telling them what they want to hear. I think in that case, the client that you just mentioned, if that person's been to three other companies and they're still in the same position, there's probably a good chance that's about as good as it's going to get. Like you kind of told them, it's
Right.
just not going to be perfect all the time. But yeah, I try to steer clear of those type of situations if I can, because clearly folks in that case they just kind of don't understand, and you may not be able to make them understand either.
Stirgus Credit Repair. Stirgus Credit Repair. If you want a new house, call us. If you need